For centuries, the Black Sea, known to the ancients as Pontus Euxinus, was a territory shrouded in myth, home to legends of Argonauts and exotic civilizations. By the 1st century BC, this perception shifted dramatically. For a Roman republic in the midst of rapid expansion, the region ceased to be a mere mythological edge of the world and emerged instead as a strategic prize of incalculable value. Controlling these waters was essential, not only to secure vital trade routes for grain and slaves, but to neutralize the growing threat of local Hellenistic powers. Thus, this remote setting became a crucial frontline, setting the stage for a monumental clash between Eastern kingdoms and the relentless Roman war machine. Mithridates VI, the ambitious king of Pontus, dared to challenge Rome's dominance in a series of defiant revolts that shook the foundations of the East. His fierce resistance sparked the Mithridatic Wars, a succession of grueling and costly conflicts that drained Rome's treasury and tested its military resolve to the absolute limit. These wars were not merely struggles for territory, they were ideological battles for the soul of the Mediterranean world. While the Senate initially underestimated the tenacity of the Pontic armies, the eventual escalation of the conflict forced Rome to project its military power deeper into the untamed reaches of the Caucasus than it had ever dared to venture before. The turning point arrived in 66 BC, when Pompey the Great assumed command with a mandate to pacify the East once and for all. His tactical brilliance quickly shattered Mithridates' forces, effectively bringing the entire Pontic realm to its knees. However, Pompey's victory was far more than a simple military conquest. It was a grand geopolitical reorganization that redrew the map of the ancient world. By establishing new provinces and subjugating local tribes, Pompey transformed the Caucasus from a chaotic barrier into a structured Roman frontier, permanently bringing these distant mountains under the formal oversight and political gravity of the Roman Senate. With the kingdom subdued, Rome immediately implemented its highly efficient administrative machine. This marked the birth of the provincial system in the East, a complex hierarchy where client rulers were installed as loyal buffers. These leaders were tasked with protecting Roman interests, ensuring the flow of wealth, and maintaining order without the immediate, costly necessity of maintaining massive, direct legionary garrisons in every valley. This sophisticated political architecture allowed the Republic to exert absolute influence over remote mountain tribes, ensuring that while the presence of Rome might be invisible in the highest peaks, its laws and strategic intentions were always felt in the lowlands. The relationship between Rome and these client kingdoms was a dangerous, double-edged game. These rulers served Rome with outward loyalty while desperately trying to maintain their own local autonomy and cultural traditions. This delicate diplomatic balance became the bedrock of Roman frontier policy for decades, providing a vital layer of security. It enabled the Republic to project power far beyond its actual borders, keeping regional rivals in check and preventing the need for overextending its limited, hard-pressed legionary forces. It was a strategy of indirect control that turned the rugged geography of the Caucasus into an effective defensive perimeter against the vast, unknown dangers lurking further to the north. Sebastopolis was established as far more than a simple port. It was a beacon of Roman engineering, standing as a sentinel on the edge of the known world. Built upon the rugged, tempestuous coast, it served as a vital logistical hub for the legions, linking the vastness of the Black Sea to the formidable, untamed peaks of the Caucasian interior. Its foundation was a deliberate assertion of Roman dominion, a place where imperial architecture met the wild frontier. The city was designed not just to house troops, but to project the image of Roman civilization, stability, and power into a region that had historically been immune to the reach of centralized empires. Roman engineers transformed the hostile landscape with unparalleled ambition and skill. They carved durable roads through treacherous, narrow gorges and erected massive, fortified walls that defiantly challenged the jagged mountain terrain. These structures were both functional and symbolic, demonstrating to local tribes and neighboring powers alike that Roman order could impose itself upon even the most inhospitable geography. By mastering the terrain, Rome turned the Caucasus into a theater of imperial control, where bridges, aqueducts, and watchtowers acted as the skeletal framework of their influence. This was not merely construction, it was the physical inscription of Roman authority onto the very face of the earth, proving the empire's permanence. Daily life for a legionary in this remote outpost was defined by an unrelenting sense of vigilance. The Limes was not a dead zone or a static line. It was a living, breathing environment where soldiers guarded the frontier, maintaining the infrastructure of empire while enduring the crushing isolation of the northern periphery. They faced harsh winters, unpredictable skirmishes with mountain raiders, and the constant strain of living far from the heart of the empire. Despite these trials, the soldiers built a resilient society, turning their fortifications into small, functioning hubs of order, where training, supply logistics, and the rigorous discipline of Rome kept the empire safe from the looming northern unknown. Beneath the martial surface of the frontier, commerce thrived in ways that linked the east to the west. Sebastopolis became a pivotal node in the wider, globalized trade network, where goods from the legendary Silk Road finally met the reach of Roman merchants. Silks, spices, and rare, precious metals moved through these ports in steady cycles, weaving the frontier into the global economy of the ancient world. This economic activity provided the capital necessary for the city's expansion and ensured that local elites had a vested interest in the Roman presence. The market squares were places of intense interaction, where the goods of 3 continents were exchanged under the watchful eyes of Rome. The frontier was a crucible of cultures, where Roman religion, law, and language blended seamlessly with local Caucasian traditions. This syncretism created a unique, vibrant identity, where temples honored both Roman gods and ancient indigenous spirits, proving that the Roman world was far more diverse and inclusive than often imagined. As Roman veterans settled in the area, they adopted local customs, while local elites sought to emulate Roman fashion and architecture to gain status. This cultural blending softened the harshness of the frontier, making the Roman presence feel less like an alien occupation and more like a permanent, foundational shift in the region's social structure, blending the old world with the new. By the 3rd century AD, the long-standing Pax Romana began to fray under the weight of its own success and internal contradiction. The empire faced a cascade of internal revolts, economic instability, and external pressures that stretched its borders to the absolute breaking point. The Caucasus, once a stable and secure flank of the empire, now felt the tremors of a crumbling imperial authority. As resources were diverted to fight more pressing civil wars and Germanic invasions in the west, the garrisons of the east found themselves undersupplied and isolated. The illusion of a permanent, unshakable border was shattered, forcing the local population and the military alike to confront a precarious future of uncertainty. In response to the growing chaos, Rome's grand strategy evolved from active expansion to a doctrine of defensive depth. The reliance on mobile field armies and the fortification of static hubs like Sebastopolis became paramount to the empire's survival. The frontier shifted its character from a place of active, expansive trade to one of desperate, calculated preservation. Garrisons were consolidated into smaller, more heavily fortified positions, and the focus moved from patrolling the deep valleys to holding critical choke points. This change reflected a more cynical, defensive mindset. Rome was no longer attempting to conquer the world, but was instead fighting a long, slow battle to maintain the borders it already possessed. As imperial tensions rose, Sebastopolis transformed into a frontline fortress of the highest order. The garrison faced constant, escalating raids, and the city's defensive architecture was tested to its absolute limit by new, aggressive powers vying for control of the strategic Black Sea passage. Every stone and every watchtower felt the immense pressure of the changing political climate. Local insurgencies and migratory tribes began to encroach upon the territory, forcing the Roman defenders to retreat behind their reinforced walls. The city became a solitary island of imperial order in a sea of encroaching chaos, a final bastion of Mediterranean power standing against a tide of regional forces determined to erase the Roman legacy. By the 4th century, the reality on the ground was stark and unavoidable. The empire, increasingly preoccupied with its own survival and internal religious and political reforms, slowly and quietly withdrew from its most exposed and costly outposts. Sebastopolis, once the pride of Roman engineering and the crown jewel of the Caucasian frontier, saw its prestige wane rapidly as local forces reclaimed the surrounding mountain strongholds. The orderly withdrawal left the region in a state of political vacuum. Where once there had been roads and law, there was now only the silence of abandoned stone, marking the end of a long, centuries-old investment in the edge of the empire. The Roman presence in the Caucasus eventually faded into the mists of history, but the profound impact remained etched in the landscape. The ancient roads, the crumbling ruins, and the enduring cultural footprints survived for centuries as silent testaments to an era when Rome dared to hold the very edge of the known world. Their legacy forever altered the development of the Black Sea region, influencing law, architecture, and language long after the legions had departed. Today, these remnants remind us of the reach of empire and the inevitability of change, marking the end of a transformative chapter that shaped the destiny of the East and the history of the classical world.